Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Umair Khan. I work in product marketing for our infrastructure management business unit. I want to introduce our next guest speaker, Zafir Youssef. He works at Telefonica UK. He is their cloud transformation lead, and he's going to share a very interesting story with us, how Telefonica and O2 Cloud have developed differentiated hybrid cloud services with UIM in the center. Zef?
Thank you. Cheers. Good afternoon, everybody. You're still looking all sharp. It's been a long day, I know, from the keynote this morning. I'm struggling myself, but let's see how we get on. So first of all, I'd like to thank some of the colleagues I've seen here today. It's been interesting for the last few days, talking about lots of challenges. And today is really about sharing our journey to the cloud. So just to set the context, really. I've been working on the cloud since 2014, 2015 for Telefonica. As you know, Telefonica is, it's got 350 million customers across the globe. And myself, I work in the UK part of Telefonica, which has about 25 million consumers. Within that, we have 450,000 businesses that we support, so small to medium enterprise customers to corporate customers. And that's the focus of area where I'll be talking around is the enterprise space today. And it's about providing services to those enterprise customers. So just a bit of a background, a lot of people, when they think about the telco community, it's all about speeds and feeds, gimmicks, differentiate out 3G, 4G, who's got the fastest link. And I think where we are today, we've come to a point of inflection, essentially, where we know it's about cloud, big data, social, analytics. All of these things are really changing the way we're having to deliver our services to customers. So they're the kind of drivers that's really changing the way we're having to think about how we deliver value-added services to customers. So get to the right slide. So hopefully this will resonate with some of you, but I will do a quick poll just to make sure I've talked to the right audience here. So how many of you guys at the moment, and ladies, are on the cloud journey in terms of moving workload from your existing infrastructure to an outside kind of facility or provider? 1, 2, pretty impressive, that's good. So would you say, just as a second temperature check, would you say you're early days or well in the process of moving? Show of hands for early days. Okay, that's still good, good. Right, so what I'm going to really talk in the next 20 minutes about, and hopefully we'll provide some time for Q&A. If we don't have time for full Q&A, I'll be hanging out at the Smart Bar at 401 with my UIM colleagues. And I'll hopefully answer any questions that you've got, and also take some learning and share our learning with you as well. So, building a digital platform for the future. So what we are famous for when we talk to our customers is we want them to recognize us for our brand. What does our brand actually mean for our customers? So in the UK, there is some differentiation. There's certain organizations go out and say we're the fastest. Some organizations talk about we've got great customer services. And I think from O2's perspective, it's been very much around experiences, bringing digital experiences to our customers, making their lives better, enriching their kind of way they live. And one of the examples is we're a big sponsor of rugby in the UK. And a lot of customers know us for that reason, going to the events. They don't necessarily talk about our speeds. So we've moved the conversation over from zeros and ones to actually providing them enrichment experiences. How are we doing that? So, well, the first thing for our journey today is we've got to change the way we do IT, essentially. What I mean by that is for the last sort of 10 years, it's been very much around project-based architecture. What I mean by that is demand comes into the business, somebody will say, what's the requirement? Go off and build that solution. And you start to get islands of all these technologies, pizza boxes in lots of data centers, and before you know it, you think IT sprawl. So we went through that cycle. We've looked at that. Then we went through the whole virtualization phase. As you know, VMware, almost like 15 years, been in the game. And I think most of us have done the virtualization gig. We now got to the point around, okay, so what's next? So for us, looking as IT back to the business, so they're our customer, what their expectations is not to have long lead times. They expect better price points. They expect more innovation, so that we kind of not prevent shadow IT, because I don't think you're going to prevent shadow IT. Shadow IT is there. You've got to embrace it. And for us, is how do we compete with that challenging and embrace it? So what we've done is we've looked at the global footprint around what we've done in Telefonica. We've taken that learning, which was they had a blueprint about a VDC, virtual data center blueprint, across every single organization of operating business in the globe. We took that and then we actually thought, well, does this fit our need? What we realized really quickly was that was a nice infrastructure as a service block given to us, but now how are we going to really use that for our customers? So we spent about a year or so working out what do our customers want. We're not trying to be an AWS, we're not trying to be an Azure or anything like that. So how do we differentiate ourselves? And what we found was that, what I'll take you through, is there's three key themes for us. It's around, we're a mobile first company, mobile cloud. So the challenge for us is how are we going to thrive in that space, what we're so comfortable with being a mobile player. Having all that data around our customers, going through our network, we're in a prime location to actually try to monetize some of that information. And today I've heard a few of the speakers talk about application analytics, user experience, customer-led, customer-centric. These are all part of our DNA essentially as a digital telco. This is what we want to become. So I talked about mobility, security, unified comms, and they're the key platforms that we're providing to our end customers. So moving on then, so we all know we're a screen addicts essentially. It's not about the laptop, it's not about the phone. We're always in front of these screens. We expect a response in a certain time. We have very little patience for any disruption. We have very little patience for waiting for IT to do something in the outside of the corporate world. So what's happening is the forces of the next generation are coming in, and IT is grappling with this pace of change. So what we've realized is we need a platform that can adapt really quickly to business demand. What I mean by that is where projects have taken 6 months to deliver a small return, we've got to get that down to a week. How are we doing that? We're examining our whole business processes again, looking at where are the bottlenecks. Is it in our procurement cycle? Is it in our design phase? Is it in our delivery phase? Is it in our governance phase? We've had to look at all of those things and really take a step back. By taking a step back from that, what we've realized is actually our proposition is based on delivering devices to customers. We provide the connectivity to customers. We're providing the infrastructure that allows them to connect to the services. And on top of that, we're providing applications where they can buy services, go to events, and those sorts of things. But traditionally, what we've been doing is we've been using many tools. And this is a collection of the last 10 years of different teams doing different things, and we've got a very complicated environment when we first started this. So we thought, how can we actually give that end-to-end experience to our customers when we've got a fragmented environment, fragmented operating model that was fit for purpose in the rigid world, as we had heard in the keynote this morning, about is it an agile business or was it built around robustness? So we're having to make that shift to basically let go of a lot of the things that we were held true to our heart and actually almost like deny those things and start fresh. So we've had to do some of that, but equally we've also had to create a bridge to our legacy. Again, a key point that was mentioned this morning that I found quite interesting. And that bridge is where hybrid comes in. So we have to recognize that we've got critical applications that run our back end. We've also got the new innovation coming at the front end. So how do we make sure we find the right balance? At the beginning, we thought VMware was the answer for us, if I'm honest with you. That what we found was customers already had that. They had already grown up into that. So what's the differentiation? Then what we learned was actually, if we can give them a private cloud platform that actually works with the public cloud, and they can use a single connectivity from their device. And what I mean by that is, as a customer of a mobile phone, from a corporate perspective, as you connect to your corporate office applications, you would normally VPN in. You would normally then have to go through a number of steps, but on an iPad or a laptop. The uniqueness we've offered is by having a special secure SIM that's identified as a corporate phone, we backhaul that traffic to the private cloud. So that allows our customers to actually build their applications in our private cloud. One, it meets regulatory requirements. So we have lots of stringent rules and regulations in the EU. So it solves that problem. The other problem it helps us solve is it gives the customer more control of the user's journey. They know it's going over endpoints that they have control over through ourselves. Equally, if they want to go to outside of that into a public cloud, we have direct connections to AWS, Azure, and many others as a cloud access broker, essentially, model. So what that's giving us is we're paving the building blocks, essentially. Those building blocks are setting up us for the future. So it's really important for us to recognize that we've got all these different tools, we've got these platforms, but what's the end goal? The end goal for us is to be able to say to our customers, we can tell you about things way before they happen. So we're moving from reactive to proactive. And I know that's kind of overused, but that's what customers expect from us. They don't expect us to tell them when the problems happen, which we've kind of done in the previous time and thinking that's adding value, but it's not. Adding value is telling them, are you ready for the next big Black Friday? Are you ready for the next marketing launch? We've seen these sort of things. So these are the insights that they're asking us for. So I talked about enterprise mobility. So that's the phones, devices, making them secure so you can allow your employees to actually access all the tools they need for their job. So in a seamless way. Again, the cloud is the foundation for that. We've got Internet of Things. In the UK, we are rolling out one of the largest smart metering projects, which is basically putting a smart meter into every home by 2020. Again, that is machine to machine, but it's the back end of that platform is all on our private cloud environment. So again, it's an enabler for us having to go outside and try to come up with individual solutions. We're now starting to industrialize our back end. That's agile as well at the same time. Talking about insights, so one of the key things, having taken this approach, what's allowed us to do is we've been able to now look at our data that's been coming into the cloud, into the big Hadoop, big data lake platform. And what we've done with that is we've been able to monetize data around how footfall is working for the retail sector, for the stadiums, soccer stadiums, etc. We're giving them target-based, one-to-one personalized messages. That's coming on the back of having full end-to-end visibility of what the customers are doing. And we're giving that insight back to our corporate customers, helping them with their marketing strategies. And now, rather than having a conversation about price, we're having a conversation about strategic initiatives. And I think that's an example for us, I think, where we've seen good movement on, is change the game. But to do that, as like I said, the cloud for us is essentially the building blocks. And there you go. So moving on to the next part. So that was the technology side. I want to touch a little bit about the people. So as you can imagine, a traditional telco, how we're set up, we have segregation of duties. We have teams that are set between SLAs between each other. I've done my job, it's your problem, and then it bounces around the standard IT world. But I think the way we're going now into this digital space, we have to break a lot of barriers down. And I'm not sure how many of you will resonate with this, but when you've put the technology there, if you've not really looked at your processes and how people work and behave and collaborate, if they're not taken on board from the outset, what you find, like we did, was you get a lot of friction. So that was something that we really learned early on in sort of 2015, that the technology was there, the automation capabilities were there, but we had to think about changing our operating model. How do we bring these teams now together? And that's where the Agile and DevOps movement essentially is starting to give us a methodology to get in there. So that's the first thing we had to do, was to bring our people with us along this journey, upskilling them, bringing new talent in. That was all critical essentially to getting their input onto the new design of how we're going to work, getting their buy-in, making them understand, and really taking their input from the early stages as well as ongoing. So that's a really critical point that is often overlooked. So in terms of the operational functions, what that means now is rather than having a network team there, a platform team there, developers there, we've collapsed that now, and we've created like circles of communities, which basically mean we've started to adopt, working with CA, our partners. What we found was bringing their skills around Scrum, lean thinking, being able to do things in a collaborative way. That was quite a big shift for us because we were very much used to doing waterfall projects, V model, very much long, taking time. So that's been a big change for us, and it's caused a lot of like dynamics around how people are actually realizing that the new way of working is take those walls down and work together, work on the same goal oriented rather than hero culture. So that's another key thing. So what's shifted that for us? The shift for us has been, well, let's be honest, if we're not doing this ourselves, our customers in the startups in our own organizations, what we found was they were already going towards public cloud. They were already doing their research and development in public cloud. And they'd come to IT a few weeks later and say, well, we've already got infrastructure as a service. What else can you do for us? So they've gone outside IT. So we realized that there's a movement happening. How do we get them on board? So rather than becoming the blocker, we changed the story, said how can we become the enabler for them? And again, so by working with the partner ecosystem, with AWS, Azure, working very close with them, and also looking at what we've got, we've come up with a multi-cloud strategy. So what we've realized is there is no one single approach for one organization. You will find your own method of how you want to be successful. And for us, a multi-cloud strategy works well for legacy, but it also works well for the future. And over time, our aspiration is to move more to the new way of working and have less technical debt with our legacy applications, which will take us some time to move on. So, yeah, so again, so having this hybrid model, the benefit is customer has choice, the customer has visibility, but equally at the same time, we need to keep our mind on it from a tool set point of view. What does that mean now? We used to have 10 tools. We used to have teams doing all of it. We're now coming to collapse those things. So all of these things are having implications on making the choices and decisions on the tool set. So key challenges, like I said, for us is how do we give choice around the tools the customer can use? So customers have their own tools. We have our own tools. How do we complement them? So instead of trying to give them a cookie cutter approach and saying, here's our product, use it or don't use it, and then find that they come into the environment, drop their own probes and their own tools in. What we did instead was we trialed, we went through a beta program and worked out with our customers how much access do they really need to get the insight they need, and how much of that presentation layer do we need to keep simple. And what we found was there was customers on one side from a polarized view that actually didn't care. They said, as long as we know our service is up, we don't need to know about the widgets and the components, the I/O that's going through. So that was one side. On the other side of the spectrum, we had more sophisticated users who were from the developer community, who were actually doing a lot more testing and proof of concept work. And they were not really interested in nice fancy dashboards at the time. What they were interested in was specific metrics to work out what the future target design is going to look like. So they just wanted raw information. So we thought, so how do we do that? So what we found was having this flexibility made us kind of look more towards the API management. So API management really is almost like the broker, the gateway for us to give that flexibility, but without giving too much away as well. So in a shared environment, as you can imagine, you've got multiple customers in a shared environment. If you're giving access straight to those back-end resources, it's very difficult without putting good policies in place how to control what information they see. Because by nature, it's a shared environment building a cloud. It's not, you don't own the hardware, so you're only looking at your resource pool that you're actually using. So we have to be mindful of how we go about those things. So that gives our customer visibility to plan, to be able to predict, and to be able to look at their budgets going forward in a proactive way. So previously, we would give them lots of different reports from Spectrum, from UIM, from other tools we had, and it was very complicated. Customers were, what is this telling me? I'm not really sure. So taking the learning on from different decision makers in our customers, what information, what insight do they need that's going to help them move to the next step. That's made us go back. And how we did that was we thought, well, let's not try and solve all the problems ourselves. Let's work with our partner community. And one of the points we got to very early on in that journey was reaching out to CA. So our relationship with CA originally was very much around transactional. We had our own experts in, and they wanted to be the gods. So what we found was actually we need them to be challenged. So we reached out to our partners and said, come in, have a look, tell us what good looks like. This is what our challenges are. And what they've taken us on since the last sort of 6 months, I think, especially on the cloud, we've gone through that transformation of getting a journey around how do we get from A to B, how do we start looking at automation, how do we start looking at reducing operational cost, how do we look at driving innovation against a roadmap of future features. And I think that's a critical thing, bringing that engagement and opening that collaboration up early on when you're developing these products and services is really important. So what have we got then? So in terms of how we've matured, we've provided the business, when I say the business, the marketing team, the finance team, who may be looking at a big financial hub of data so they can do reporting. It could be the sales community looking at what's the demand looking like, is the demand in a certain region for future investment, planners, various people. So what we've provided is a catalog of computing services, platform services, essentially in a catalog way. So IT as a service, as you'd call it, or supercharged IT, which was what we call it in our world. And the idea of that is rather than taking them down the long procurement route, we're telling them how you can build services from an enterprise point of view with enterprise grade features in a way that allows them to be more control of their destiny, so that we don't become the bad guys, we become the enablers. So that's the big mantra at the moment. Again, how are we doing that? So we're creating patterns, we're creating blueprints, we're giving them best practice composition of various components. I say, if you're trying to do this type of projects, from my experience, this is what you need. So that, again, they can budget quicker. So that's moved a lot of the negative around having to go outside of IT. They're now coming back in and talking and working, so improving engagement. In terms of automation, the big thing there for us was, we thought initially we will try and make everything as simple as possible and reduce as much complexity. We tried, it didn't work on the first time around. Why did it work? Simply because we didn't realize the complexities involved with all the different tools. So one of the decisions we had to make early on is actually we need less tools. Rather than having 20 different applications doing what we wanted to do, we brought that down to 10, then to 5, and we're on that journey of bringing that down further. CA UIM for us has helped us accelerate that. Why? Because we had many different products doing different things, and what we realized was they're actually more ahead of the game than what the individual suppliers were doing on their own. So we had to make this, which supplier for us is on the same journey that where we're going. So we decided to put more energy on that side. So I don't know how many of you use UIM. Show of hands, anybody use it today? Okay. So I've had to reduce some of these icons, customer names. I've got some of our customers here as well, in CA world as well. So I don't think they'll be too pleased to see their names. But essentially what we've moved to now is where the networks team used to have a view of their individual silo worlds, we've given the operational team a common view now, a single view, and they can look at the health of the application or the service. So rather than the actual commodity that sits behind it, which you can still drill down into each of those icons and go down to the root cause analysis, but what we've moved towards is bringing everybody on the same page so they can see a service which is degraded, they know the importance of that service or that customer, and they can focus their energy that way. Also, what we've done from this point is we've done more integration with our ITSM ticketing systems as well. So rather than creating alarm storms and noise, we've worked on the basis that let's put some intelligence behind what constitutes an issue, what constitutes an event, what constitutes service degradation, and putting that intelligence back into the tools has given us, again, more better response from the customer. So we're not having to tell them we've seen a problem, but we can go to the next few steps and say, we know where the problem is, this is what we're working on. Again, so from a cloud point of view, what does that mean? It means that we can move workload from A to B. We can realize the alarms are coming in. We can tell the orchestration from the infrastructure layer, actually make decisions and move stuff on. So this is how it looks today. So when we go to our business today, we tell them, it's up to you how you want to deliver your service. If you really want to move your web application stuff to the Amazon, fine. We have the links, no problem with that. You can move your corporate IT into Azure. Why do we want to invest in more tin in our own data centers, legacy operating systems? Let's move it into the cloud. We reduce that overhead. So again, from a tool set point of view, keeping that in the back of your mind, what that means now is your workload's constantly moving. How do we know which VM is over here, which one is there, which one does it affect the service? So we're creating something called service chains. That service chain is pulling together all the composite components that make up the service. It doesn't matter where they are. So it becomes boundaryless. What I mean by boundaryless is we're architecting a monitoring tool that doesn't really care where the thing is. It's really looking at the service, but it will pinpoint which area of the cloud is causing the issue. As you can see, there's a couple of screenshots there for those of you who get excited about this stuff, like me. So customers are now getting the reports they need, they're getting the insight they need, but like I said, the more detailed people, the developer community, they're actually relying on the APIs to get the information themselves, and they're harvesting that information into a Splunk type or whatever they're doing and using that. So again, we're not being the telco who says, it's this, black, any color, and nothing else. So we realize that's not going to work. So I think, yeah, so one of the big things, again, challenges we had was when we started to deliver cloud to the business, they were used to the Amazons and the AWS and the Azures, where you go in, you have full control, as you would have in vSphere, you have the control to go down to the nth degree. What we found was trying to abstract too much from the customer so it becomes just a catalog. It worked for, I'd say, 30% of our customers, but the 70% were more sophisticated users, so we thought, we're trying to automate so much that we're dumbing it down, and the people who are using it have no autonomy left in it. So what we had to decide was actually we need to create different roles that allow users to be able to have more control of where they want to influence the system, rather than just a simple view. So we've ended up starting from a simple view and created a hybrid automation and orchestration profiles, essentially, based on the level of sophisticated the user is. So what that means for us is that we've got still a single way in from an architecture point of view. We've got a single way in. We're exposing the APIs for other tools that customer may have, wants to integrate with. We're giving that flexibility. But at the same time, we've got a standardized way for two different types of broad users, essentially. 70%, like I said, more sophisticated, 30% don't care. Normally you'd think it's the other way around, but it was slightly different for us. So what are the benefits? So I think for us, we're still not there yet. We're getting there. But for us, it's about, we have to realize that as a telco, digital telco, we were used to selling handsets. This is not a handset, but we were used to selling handsets. We're used to selling fixed lines, various things. And the customer used to care about, is my service availability up? Now that conversation goes to, why is my app not working? Why is, when I click, it takes longer? So customers are asking us, we don't want to invest in tools ourselves. We want a single pane of glass. This is the voice of the customer, voice of the business. That's shaping how we design things. So rather than going out and trying to build something and then say, here you go, Mr. Customer, we're really keen always on our customers being collaborative in that process. So we bring insight from our customers that actually influences our strategy. Very much a bit like CA, they come in and listen, and they will work out what makes sense for themselves, what makes sense for the customer, and go on that journey together. We've taken that similar approach, and it's working for us. So we don't end up with something that becomes too constrained, and it gives us that flexibility. So that rounds up my timing. Apparently I've done well, signal from behind. I thought I'm going to go over, which I normally do. But there is some must-see demos, as you can see, self-explanatory. But I'm really keen to, over the next few days whilst we're still here, to catch up with as many of you. I'm Zafir Yousaf. You can find me on the CA app agenda. Feel free to have a one-to-one or a catch-up, or I'll be at the bar. Love to hear from you guys around some of the challenges you've got, and happy to learn from you guys as well. So, thank you very much for your time today. If there's any questions, like I said, feel free to talk after this. Thank you very much.